There's no better way to start your morning than sharing it with us here on Rise and Shine Daily. Good morning and welcome once again to your early morning breakfast show. My name is Janice Cobham. Thank you so much for being a part.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwaba Sibom State. It's a beauty social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. We'd have our phone lines displayed on the screen in the course of the program. Feel free to call in, send us WhatsApp or text messages to make your contribution on the issues that we raised on the floor of Rise and Shine. Good morning once again. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Uyai. I'm
Tired. Most I feel tired, but I'm great.
tired, like fatigued, brain fatigued.
All the fatigue is fatiguing.
Okay, so
But we're
sorry
grateful
about
to be
that though.
alive.
So sorry about that. But recently I've seen that there's been a lot of collapsing around the country, and I'm wondering what exactly is happening. Collapse of buildings, collapse of floodlights, collapse of everything. And one thing we should know as we speak is that the rains have started. And we've started seeing floods around the country already. This is just like the early entrance of the rainy season. And we should be conscious of the effects that the rains are going to have. This is just to remind us that the meteorological department actually gave a warning that this year's rain might just be worse than last year's. So if we had the kind of flooding we had last year, and the rains this year will be more, I think that we should at all levels be very strategic. But yesterday in some parts of Lagos, experiencing flooding, and then it rained here in Uyo, and there were just a lot of destructions, fallen trees and all of that, broken fences, roofs opened up and all of that. So what I'm trying to say in essence is, while we are waiting on government to do the needful in terms of creating bits, make sure you clear your drainages. It's very important. When the rain finds a channel to move and it doesn't see, the next thing the rain will do is to come into your homes, and that's what we do not want to happen. So let's clear our drainages, all the water channels that we know that we get to dump refuse into, because I know that we Nigerians are always very used to that, dumping refuse, indiscriminate dumping of refuse where we're not even supposed to dump our refuse. So while we clear our drainages, I know that government will also do their own path. Do not block the rain channels, do not block the water channels at all. Allow them free so that when the water comes, it has where to pass. If not, trust me, it will look for somewhere else to pass, and that might just be your homes. Deep enough, we can make them deep enough, or bigger enough, so that once the rain comes, it just goes the way it came. So that's just what I want to say about some of the issues that are happening in terms of the rain. It came down in large torrents yesterday in Uyo. It was so massive, and my fear was, how do we even get to work this morning, because of the bad routes and all of that. But here we are. We just have to do what we have to do.
With the rains, the roads are so terrible. We can't even, bring up the conversation of our own road is in path. So this is like, Sir Leonard was saying, lending a voice to the governments to also come and help us. This is, what will I call it? It's an organization that is giving back to the state, and just for a way that you create an environment that encourages the minders of these organizations to continue the good works that they do. Looking into the road situation here will help a great deal. We're talking, from the community, and staff members had to walk all the way in the night after the night shift to get there. So all of those things are things that if we have a government, that understands that this is what these people are bringing back, they will just come, and walk on the roads either way to help the community and the likes. Let's move quickly to flash news, things that are happening around the country. The Muslim faithfuls have been observing their Ramadan fast since the beginning of this month, and the federal government has declared Monday, April 21st and Monday, April 24th, 2023 as public holidays to mark this this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration. Now, the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, obtained yesterday. He congratulated all Muslims for the successful completion of the holy month of Ramadan. Of course, Aregbesola called on all Muslims to imbibe and practice the virtues of kindness, love, tolerance, peace, self-denial, sacrifice, good neighborliness, as exemplified by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Of course, the self-restraint, self-denial, sacrifice, and deep spiritual consciousness that has accompanied the fasting period should not end, but be maintained and improved upon in order to be a better person and true worshipper. The minister advised all, Muslims. But that's where it is. Friday and Monday have been set aside by the federal government to commemorate the Eid al-Fitr celebration nationwide at this time. Of course, he also assured that the president was fully confident speeches we receive. May it's a couple of days away.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw a video the other day of some military people doing some rehearsals, and it was said that the military is rehearsing for the May 29 transition and handing over as well. But still talking about our flash news this morning, of course, the president's Major General Muhammadu Buhari retired yesterday evening, arrived in Abuja from Saudi Arabia, concluding his 8-day official visit at 5:08 p.m. after taking a longer flight path to avoid the Sudanese airspace due to the ongoing conflict between the military and the members of the paramilitary rapid support forces. He arrived in Abuja after nearly 7 hours for a 4 to 5 hour Jeddah-Abuja flight due to the ongoing situation in Sudan. We see that the president is back in town. And what this means is that before now, they were feeding him with some incidences that have happened, topmost of which was what happened in Adamawa State, and, all the punitive measures that have been meted out to the erring. One thing that is top on his agenda as he comes back will be the transition and handing over on May 29, actually. But we thank God that our president is back in the country, and so everything
Saudi Arabia. He was, he observed the lesser Hajj, especially in the season of the holy month of Ramadan as a Muslim. And we know that as the leader of this country, he must have taken time to pray for the peace and the continuity of our nation, Nigeria. I'm very sure that, as expected, certain people will expect that now that the president is in the country, that a lot more things are going to move smoothly. It's easier for you to get his attention on issues than wait for a spokesperson to take the file of information and get to his short trip to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as president. Of course, in the course of his tenure, in the almost 8 years of being president, he's visited Saudi Arabia a couple of times, and this is his last official visit. When next he goes to Saudi Arabia, he will just be the
I think it's going to be more like the last official visit to anywhere again in the world as president of the Federal Republic. Yes, there's little or no time to travel again of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and I'm sure this is the last of its kind as well. Anyways, that's it on our flash news this morning. Some of those very important news that came in. But again, let's look at our major stories for the morning. The Adamawa saga when it comes to the supplementary elections that happened on Saturday seems to be growing and bringing up a lot of issues. We saw Aishatu Binani Dahiru saying that the 2 billion naira was an allegation that, happened, and she never gave 2 billion naira as bribery for anything. According to her, she's a Democrat and she wouldn't do anything to stall the democratic process in the country. But let's look at what happened going further. Of course, INEC has given the incumbent and also the incoming second term as the toughest election in his political career. Fintiri stated this yesterday in Abuja while fielding questions from journalists after the Independent National Electoral Commission presented him and his deputy, Professor Kelatawa Rauta, with certificates of return for emerging winners of the governorship election in the state, which ran into a supplementary poll on Saturday. Now, earlier on Tuesday, INEC's returning officer for Adamawa, Mohammed Mali, who is Aishatu Dahiru, also known as Binani of the All Progressives Congress, polled a total of 398,788 votes. I think at this point, it just puts to rest all the things that have been happening in Adamawa State. But yeah, like we talked about yesterday, it's not just okay to say that we are dishing out punitive measures to those that erred during the elections or the supplementary elections that held. We want to see more. Like I was saying, there are just a lot of questions that have been left unanswered. And I think Nigerians deserve to know, we are all Nigerians, we deserve to know what actually went down in Adamawa State during the supplementary elections.
Those are questions that will continue to be asked. But it's more like in spite of the uproar that happened, midway declaration of Aisha to Binani as the winner, although the People's Democratic Party, the People's Democratic Party now was polling a lot of numbers. It's good to see that INEC addressed the issue, and more like the voices of the Adamawa people stood out clear, and Governor Fintiri has been given the certificate. Further affect the democracy of our country. What expectations do we continue to have of INEC when we are talking about the proceedings of an election? And like we said, in the cycle of the just concluded elections, there's been a lot of questions that should not go unanswered, or else we'll be looking at an electoral body that will lose more trust on the end of the electorate when we come round again for other elections. Let's not even forget that before we make it round to the general cycle of election, we will still have other off-cycle elections because of certain states that were elected off-cycle. So we really need to to see that INEC and the other authorities that are involved, because really INEC cannot persecute any of its agents for going against the laws, but we say, hey, this and these are the ways that the likes of the wreck in Adamawa State went against the guideline. This is our recommendation to the Nigeria Police Force, and we do hope that that's seen. Like, one of the conversations that has trailed that activity, he allegedly had said he, made that announcement from orders, with orders from above. Now, that whole trail of conversation needs to be investigated into, not suddenly swept under the carpet. The issue is we are 1 week into all of the drama that electoral race. Is that going to be the end of everything that we saw happen against the democracy of the country last week Saturday?
Yeah, it's calls for a lot of concern, actually, because when you even mentioned the off-season election, of course, we have that happening in November 11th, I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
November 11th, Imo State now, and one of the states, that will be having the off-season elections. Now, what do we expect INEC is going to be doing towards that election? Are we also going to see this kinds of shameful outing from the INEC? Let's not also negate the fact that yes, there could still be some very good people in INEC, right? Because I know that one of the issues that was even raised during the presidential elections was that some INEC officials, connived, took bribe or whatever it is they did, but there was some kind of connivance. Now, it doesn't also mean that someone like the national chairman of INEC, because it keeps giving the Independent National Electoral Commission a bad name and putting them in a bad light before Nigerians. Right now, I don't think there's any Nigeria that will beat their chest and say that INEC did right in this particular 2023 electoral outing. Okay, so let's see how we can read off these bad eggs. But it's not enough to say that okay, so like you said, even when we talk about other relevant authorities, that it has happened in Adamawa State, and whatever he did, to also abate what happened, So let it go beyond, we are just redeploying this person out of Adamawa State because he did this, which is wrong. Let's say a situation where these things continue unabated. So how will the outing of INEC be on the 11th of November? That is what everybody's looking at. Don't also forget, that before now, I think the off-season or the supplementary election was another way that INEC would have redeemed themselves. Not even talking about the supplementary election is even going too far. We thought that, okay, we were going to have a better outing from INEC during the gubernatorial elections that happened on the 18th of March. But we didn't see that happen. A lot of supplementary elections, because of the insecurity and all of the issues that marred the gubernatorial elections. So we had a lot of supplementary elections hold across board, even for National Assembly, State Assembly, 25th of February elections. So what other chances does INEC have to redeem themselves during the off-season elections?
For me, I'd even say, with regards to off-season elections, do we really think that the off-season elections, and everybody was like, oh, we have seen how the bimodal accreditation machines work. We've seen how they did this. We see how they did that, and it was more of what would I call it, a courage booster for the electorate. Say, as we go for the national elections, it's going to be good because INEC had quote and unquote good outings in Ekiti and Osun. I personally would not think that these off-season elections have the weight to override what has happened nationally, because when you're talking of off-season elections, you're seeing that their concentration is locked into Nigeria attempting to cast their vote at the same time. So I don't even think it gives them room to exonerate themselves, but it's pitiable to realize that you have a chance like that and they would still blow it. Because when you're talking of bad eggs in the system, I think it was the Pan-African guest that we had the other day that was saying these persons are not necessarily people that were just introduced into the INEC system, like the rec in Adamawa State, who do you know, sir, now, who made that particular announcement. Yes, it's not like he was just introduced into the system. He's been there. Before he was given that position as the rec, he got acquainted with the guidelines of the election to give a statement after the event in Adamawa State, and he was elaborately displeased by the fact that INEC officers in Adamawa State were humiliated because of the issue that happened. I mean, there were beatings and strippings that went on in Adamawa as a result of that. And you're wondering, but this is an INEC staff that disregarded the electorate in the face of real-time numbers, and what exactly were you expecting? So we're wondering, there has to be something in the system that puts a check on everybody. Even when I feel like sometimes when you work with people, you can know their tendencies. Although you may not be able to say at the end of the day if this person is going to fall for a trap if it was set. In that kind of moment, there were other people on the table besides the rec. Wasn't there anybody that would say, hello, excuse me, sir, in our order it's not done that
you get more like a checks and balances. Exactly. If you're the rec, I have that powers to check what you're doing and all of that. So
and it might have stemmed the foundation and fabrics of how our institutions are run. It goes beyond INEC now. INEC is taking the bullet for it, because we were hoping that Nigerians were hoping that this particular season of election was going to birth a new order of things in the country out with the off-season elections. I personally really don't think so. But in terms of giving an update with Yunusari's conduct during the supplementary elections that held on Saturday, with his unethical conduct after a meeting of INEC's management comprising national commissioners and the INEC chairman Mahmood Yakubu in Abuja, the Electoral Empire has requested the SGF to call the attention of the appointing authority to the unwholesome behavior of the reg for further action. So like we said, it's a matter of referring to the authorities above that can actually handle the misbehavior of Unisari.
Talking about the misconduct and all of that, and referring for punitive measures to be taken, the truth of the matter is Nigerians are looking out for this particular issue, and we are all concerned and we are all interested. Nigerians are hoping that this will be trashed out properly. At this point, we just take a breather and join Mary Joseph, who's standing by for the news brief. And when we come back, of course, other interesting conversations is still lined up for you on Rise and Shine. Don't forget, we have Daily Spotlight, and today a focused conversation will be looking at taxation and how taxation will help our economy or mar our economy. We'll be right back shortly. Just stay with us. Rise and Shine continues shortly.
It's the needs of the people. But There's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
As of state and government, Secretary General, delegates.
From Spectrum, live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. We begin this morning with the report that President Muhammad Buhari yesterday evening arrived in Abuja from Saudi Arabia, concluding his 8th-day official visit to the kingdom. According to reports, the President was received at the airport by the Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, Deputy Inspector General of Police, Damalam Mohammed, representing the Inspector General of Police, and the Director General, Department of State Services, Yusuf Bichi. Away from that, the federal government has declared Friday, April 21st and Monday, April 24th, 2023 as public holiday to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration. The Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Aregbesola, who made this declaration on behalf of the federal government, congratulated all Muslims for the successful completion of the holy sacrifice and good neighborliness, as exemplified by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Meanwhile, to further strengthen efforts at ending insecurity and attendant consequences on the citizens and the economy, the federal government has unveiled a 5-year strategic plan to boost internal security. Making public the plan in Abuja, Minister of Interior Rauf Aregbesola said because internal security is integral to national security and prosperity, the key role of the newly launched strategic plan stands to play in national security, and the promotion of good governance cannot be re-emphasized. On the foreign scene, Kenya's President William Ruto has said that he's deeply alarmed by what he called a reports say that he is one of the 3 African heads of state meant to be flying to Sudan's capital, Khartoum, to mediate an end to the fighting. After 5 days of bitter battles between the army and the Parliamentary Rapid Support Forces, more than 270 people have been killed. And finally, in sports, the Super Falcons will engage in a Grade A friendlies ahead of the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. The Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, however, have plans to arrange tune-up games for the 19. I have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine, where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
As of state and government.
Information, knowledge, or an escape.
From generation to generation, the Nigerian broadcasting industry has worked tirelessly to serve you.
And now, this service will finally be recognized.
Come May 17th this year, broadcasters all over Nigeria will gather at a hotel and suites for the maiden edition of the Nigerian Broadcasting Awards, an award ceremony set to reward hard work and excellence in the broadcast media. Voting starts on 20th April and ends on 4th May 2023. Visit www.tnbawards.ng to vote now. They've served and they're still serving. It's time we say thank you. This award is organized by the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, BON.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by across them. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, not shaking.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Many thanks for still being there. Of course, Rise and Shine Daily is the show if you're just joining us. And we've had a couple of very interesting conversations so far. But Mary Joseph just came off the news brief desk with some very global information there. But just as, you know, a close up to some of the, on behalf of the federal government has said that Friday the 21st and Monday the 24th of April has been declared as public holiday, of course, to celebrate our Muslim brothers and sisters that have just completed their Ramadan Saturday. Of course, we see Adamu Fintiri, the incumbent governor, you know, win the re-election and has also gotten his certificate of return from INEC and all of that. So at this point, we just go straight to bringing you details or information on the front pages of our national dailies this morning. So now it's Daily Spotlight.
Yes, Daily Spotlight bringing you stories from the front pages of our national dailies. This morning, let's start with the Punch newspaper. Looking at the front page of the Punch this morning, and the big story there clamps down on insecurity. Says local rice price jumps by 200%. Rice price soars from 173 naira per kilogram to 521 naira per kilogram under Buhari, despite government intervention. NBS reports. Rice farmers, producers, experts blame rising inflation, insecurity, others for rice woes. We also see here Buhari returns, avoids Sudan airspace. Adamawa Paul, police warned against cover-up. Okay, Adamawa Paul, 715 billion naira. Page 19 is where you can find that story. Lagos mob burns BRT bus as driver dies in crash. El Rufai raises the alarm ever insecurity ahead of May 29. Page 2 and page 30 is where we can find a particular story. We also see here Ogun Father's Banana Island building collapse, says report. These are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
We go straight now to Daily Sun. Let's find out what Daily Sun has to say this morning. The front page of Daily Sun is repleted with a lot of plots to undermine rules and ranking thickens. And we have the rider, APC elements secretly working to allow first-timers via for Senate President and Deputy. Attempts will fail, says Ndume. We also have a Shomole joint race commences discreet campaign. That story can be gotten in ICU, that's intensive
care
unit. That means they need to resuscitate it or something. Intensive care units, I mean, all of the oxygen and everything,
every infrastructure in the state.
Avoiding Ararume's removal as NNPC board chair, says Buhari. You can find that story on page 4. This Ararume story seems to be brewing a lot of issues. Let's move forward now. 3,298 inmates on death toll in prison as governors fail to sign warrants. You can find details of that story on page 4. Ramadan, Sultan directs Muslims to look out for moon from today and to probe Adamawa Guba Pool controversy. Page 8 is where you get details. Setting up medical varsity, one of Ugwanya's greatest achievements, says VC. Page 27 is where you get details of that from. New twist in APC crisis. Northwest's Vice Chairman Lukman issues ultimatum to Adamu to summon National Working Committee on Omishuri strike. National Assembly directs Minister to halt demolition of aviation agency officers. You can get that in fee. And that's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Daily Sun this morning.
We move now to Nigerian Tribune. Let's look at the front page of Nigerian Tribune, and the big story there says $2.4 billion crude oil probe. Reps summon finance minister AGF over payment of $200 million consultancy fees. Ask CBN to provide details of payment to beneficiary account. That story has a 973 in 15 months. Labour Party crisis deepens. A Papa-led EXCO writes INEC submits list of Imo Kogi governorship candidates. FAAC, federal government, states, local governments share 714.629 billion naira March revenue. Abuja collapsed wall claimed 2 lives, 4 rescued, says FEMA. Dismissed Delta killer cop arraigned, remanded in prison. Page 29, we also see here Eid al-Fitr, federal government declared Friday and Monday public holiday. Fire got Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State Studio. Sorry situation there. Gridlock as driver dies in Lagos crash. BRT bus burnt. 7 passengers rescued, says Lasma. At Damawa, why Buhari did not interfere in poll debacle. Federal government damned. Tinubu calls for thorough investigation, congratulates Fintiri. And those are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, we move now to our next paper, which is the Nation newspaper. And the Nation newspaper says the big story, why Buhari didn't intervene in Adamawa Pool crisis. So more people are being summoned in response to the case in Adamawa State. Iwoyawu is Ohanese president. That's another story there. Acting Labour Party chair rejects suspension by party NEC. Moving forward, Buhari to appeal judgments voiding Ararume's removal. We also have DMO, Nigeria not defaulting in China debt repayments. Okay, I think that's just about the whole story that we have here on the front page of the Nation. That's just
police inquest into Adamawa polls. Of course, that particular story cuts across. Fintiri seeks prosecution of criminality, I beg your pardon, behind drama. Apologizes for attack on national commissioners. Of course, why Buhari didn't intervene in debacle. Federal government says president didn't use security against opposition during polls. NSCDC boss, someone state commandant, Fintiri and others get certificate of return. Okay, DMO dismisses default claims on child health. Insecurity, the numbers are high from Kaduna, 1,266 killed, 4,973 kidnapped in 15 months. Energy poverty, over 60% of Nigeria's population lack power. NLS. We also see here Idil Fatih, Sultan of Sokoto, urges Muslims to watch for new moon, page 29. Due judicial process will be followed on Ararume NNPCL matter, says President Buhari. Okay, Idil Fatih, Monday and Friday are public holidays. We also see here why 3,298 years from sport, and it says Flying Eagles yet to be paid qualifying bonuses. Trouble right there. Okay, that's all we have on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
Okay, so at this point, of course, these are all the stories that we have on the front page of our National Daily this morning. But of course, we'll allow for reactions from Nigerians who do well to call us or send us text messages on the numbers being displayed on your screen this morning. But let's even look at some of the stories that are of very their interests right now. And of course, the rising security causing a lot of hike in the prices of rice. That's very alarming. But not just insecurity. Of course, the group, which is Reapman, has also said that other factors such as the ban on importation is what is making the price of rice to increase. But let's take our first caller for this morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, that's a drop call. Do well to call us back. And of course, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Thank
What's
you
your name and where are you calling from?
From Benin.
Okay, Sonny from Benin. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I sincerely, I would like to, if I'm privileged, I would like to ask Mr. Arrowfine, or if I have access to his phone number, I would love to call him to ask him whether he still receives security votes monthly. Because he cannot be receiving security votes. Before he came into office, he also promised to deal with the issue of insecurity in Kaduna State. He cannot continue to receive security votes, and he also had less than a month and few to find out if he's receiving security votes. If he's still receiving security votes, it's about time our lawmaker look into that aspect of security vote, because if you check the constitution, nothing is said about how to spend security votes. If that one is not dealt with, I tell you that's another aspect for failure for Nigerians. Because at the end of the day, whether revenue is increased or reduced, it did not say anything about security votes. So even though the money is 50 million naira to a state, the governor of that state will first of all remove insecurity votes. Then before I now talk about whether he will pay salary or do every other thing, I think it's about time we look into that aspect. Number two, I have talked about the issue of China. China closed their border the way Nigeria, Mr. Buhari promised to close his border. But they didn't close their border for the people to suffer. They all said we either suffer together or we swim out of this problem together. Now, Mr. Buhari closed borderline for how long? Life has not been very easy for people. At the homegrown rice, we have been complaining on various channels. I remember I was in Wazobia FM in Oka. I was in Boss TV in Abuja, where I was talking about this issue of closure of borders. Now, the other side face Nigerians who have not even been able to feed their people. They also export this homegrown rice to other countries. So it's not just the issue of insecurity that is making the rice to increase, or because of the closure of the border. Our people are also making life hard for their people. Now, after May 29, I will put together on internet what President Buhari promised Nigeria. What has he done so far? What has he not done so far? I will put on them after May 29. Then right now, I'm going to allow him to complete to May 29. Then Nigeria, I went to give the food to some people that needed food because of this cash crunch. I saw a woman who has a large bag of yam. They threw away 2 wheelbarrows. Whether some people do not have food to eat at home, I felt very bad. How can people not have food to eat at home? I remember I bought flour and yam to get bad. I was told when I was asking in that community that the woman already threw away 2 wheelbarrows the previous day before I came. So why keep it if they're not buying? Why not share for those who are hungry? Should you wait for Christmas? Should you wait for Easter for it to do good to people? So we found that it's not only just government. That's why I said that the people who are facing Nigeria is not a government. It's not
really serious questions and thoughts that he has put together there. And I will first of all lean in on something that we stand, we represent a lot when we always look at the part of Nigerians to the problems that we are facing. And
course, yes.
he just mentioned having someone who sells 2 bars of yam. Because of how the system is, there was a cash crunch, you couldn't sell. You kept the taxation. In some states, they were burying eggs because, they are currently experiencing what they call, they have more supply than they are having demand for. Yeah. So there's what they call egg glut.
One at a total loss. Why not just get something small from that?
Slash the price to maybe what the common man can buy or something. Let everybody even rush and get these eggs in their houses, and you just go with what you get. We had to see that certain states were subsidizing the price of eggs. Some states bought selling, or in that case yam. So like Sonny said, before we run all the way to meet Buhari in the Aso Rock, there are things that we as individuals can do to make Nigeria better for each other. We just saw in the papers, rice has gone 200% high, and it first of all, you have to be surprised that this rice is no kidding, and then you now experience a 200% price hike. How are you going to be buying rice for almost 4
of the borders? I think that when the federal government said they were closing the borders, they had their reasons for closing the borders, and one of which I remember is that Nigeria should begin to do their own production, provide loans. That's what they call the anchor borrowers loan, where they give to farmers, that are interested in some of the staple food production. But the question is, where have these loans gone to? Why are we not seeing these loans being reproduced in terms of enough food? Happened in northern Nigeria where rice farmers were beheaded. Quite a sad story. And this is where, we have a lot of homegrown rice taking place. And then we saw recently where the president even commissioned the rice pyramid and all of that, even though there were lots of stories, that trailed that particular to promote consumption of made in Nigeria goods. How far have we gone with that? Have we been able to produce enough to go round? Have we been able to even consume the things that we produce here in Nigeria to further boost the economy of the country? So I think that government, yes, we know that some Nigerians are pretty greedy for us as a country, and then we are busy exporting. So our borders are open, are porous enough to, allow this government to do their own parts, play their own parts in trying to stabilize some of those things. I was hearing yesterday that a cup of Gari now is 100 naira. So if you're buying a cup of Gari for 100 naira, now, how can that minimum wage be able to allow you feed your family properly, do medicals for your family, pay school fees, transportation, and then fuel, on the other hand, electricity and all of that? So it's really biting. And I think that we as individuals, we have our own role to play. government have their own roles to play. And then another thing he talked about, I think the Southern Kaduna is Yahuza get to, talk about the fact that people are being used as bait for some of these issues that we have in Southern Kaduna. And then that particular local government, something Kataf, that's where this whole issue is happening. And then the big question is, are we not, as governors of different states, receiving security votes? What exactly do we use the security votes of our different states for? Is it that we just gulp it down, or we use it to effectively abate some of these issues that we are facing in the country? I think at this point, government should rise up to the occasion, from the state government to even the federal government, to see what exactly is happening in, Southern Kaduna. So it's really appalling that every day on the papers, we see that 20, 30 people have been killed, and it just goes like that. Are people comfortable hearing these kinds of news?
The numbers are really high. Just looking at Kaduna alone, we are not even spreading it into other northern states, but Kaduna alone at this time, 1,266 kidnapped, 4,973 in total in a year and 5 months. These are the numbers that we have coming in. And like Sonny rightly asked, when you say a state governor has access to set aside security votes, what exactly is done with the security votes? I think we really need to get beyond chasing shadows. And like an administration is coming to an end, state by state, state governors should be probed, as to what they did with the finances of their state. We are also state and the FCT, between the state governments and local governments rather. For the month of March. And then you're wondering again, what exactly are we doing with this money? Because to a very large extent, security votes are used at the what would I call it, jurisdiction of the state governor. So what exactly are you deploying it in? Like Sonny said, El Rufai is one governor that is widely vocal about a lot of things. I know he's one of the most vocal ministers I grew up hearing. There was always an El Rufai. I particularly remember when he was the minister of the FCT at the time. He was doing and undoing. And one would think that El Rufai would have brought that energy into being governor of Kaduna State. And when you say insecurity, we are talking about, I think it was one of our guests who talks about, you're having people at the helms of affairs who do not interact with the communities that they are leading. So they do not know where to nip
There's a
issues.
disconnect.
Yes, they do not know where to
disconnect.
nip issues at the board. If you say you have the particular couldn't Kataf community now that's been having issues.
Why not Zango Kataf?
Yes, Zango Kataf. I think that is it. But why not, do groundwork? Let's find out what exactly is giving access to the insecurity there. Like Dr. Yahuza said the other day, who are the politics aloof when we are attempting to address situations in the country? And HAS is gone for some of these governors. How well did they do in their state? We need institutions that will be able to probe how they spend the money. We are talking large allocations for some states and lean allocations for others. But nonetheless, we need to have a system that begins to question, what did Governor A do with the monies that was sent into his state? The development allegedly put on ground, is it commensurate to the amount of money you made, in
the course of the administration of 8 years or 4 years?
Exactly. So this administration is going to come and go, and we'll just sweep all of that under the carpet. Oh, let's wait for the next crop of guys that are coming on the scene.
And just to lean a little bit on what you were trying to talk about, El Rufai now, being very vocal, yes. And then I hope that in the federal government are trying to stifle the progress or the ambition, the presidential ambition of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I think you should also exert that kind of energy that same energy he used in being vocal about some of the issues in the federal government as to the political season. He needs to exert that same energy in trying to see that the common man in Kaduna State is safe and can actually sleep with your 2 eyes closed. Not the first time we're talking about issues in Southern Kaduna. This is not the first time we are talking about killings in Zango Kataf as a local government area in Kaduna State. So what has it been doing So if he is vocal, he should be vocal in terms of exerting the same energy into some of those things. Nigerians are supposed to pay tax, taxpayers' monies. These are taxpayers' monies that are being, distributed.
Yeah.
So what are you using the monies of taxpayers for? If you cannot protect them, you cannot provide basic amenities for them, then what exactly? But at this point, we just take a very, very short breather now. And when we come back, of course, that's the much we can take on our newspaper review segment. I want to say a very big thank you to Sunny that called in all the way from Benin City to be coming back with our guest to look at our focus conversation this morning. Taxation. As Nigerians, we are asked to pay tax, but what are these taxes being used for, and how does it even affect the small and medium scale enterprises that we have?
Good morning, Nigeria. Year after year, they have informed, educated, and entertained us.
This service will finally be recognized.
Come May 17th this year, broadcasters all over Nigeria will gather at a hotel and suites for the maiden edition of the Nigerian Broadcasting Awards, an award ceremony set to reward hard work and excellence in the broadcast media. Voting starts on 20th April and ends on 4th May 2023. Visit www.tnbawards.ng to vote now. They've served and they're still serving. It's time we say thank you. This award is organized by the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, Bonn.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the...
This council is leaving the evidence in our matter.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every Friday.
Year after year, they have informed, educated, and entertained us. When you needed information, knowledge, or an escape.
From generation to generation, the Nigerian broadcasting industry has worked tirelessly to serve you.
And now, this service will finally be recognized.
Companies set to reward hard work and excellence in the broadcast media. Voting starts on 20th April and ends on 4th May 2023. Visit www.tnbawards.ng to vote now. They've served and they're still serving. It's time we say thank you. This award is organized.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're beaming live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Several conversations have already gone on the show this morning. A good way to catch up on all that is follow us across all social media platforms, all of which you can find at spectrumtv.ng. At this time, we're going to be narrowing into our focus conversation, and we are looking at taxation and the growth of small, medium enterprises in Nigeria. To have this conversation with us on set this morning is
good morning, esteemed viewers. Good to be here with you this morning.
Great. Taxpayers, tax policies, tax systems, great conversation. I don't even think it's something that we really talk about in Nigeria. I know that in recent years we've tried to push the awareness that you need to get a TIN number, TIN, and then also include people that sell in the market. There is a structure for taxing and all that. We hear of how taxation is a big deal in developed climes, and how that, it's how their systems are run. But overall, what is the what would you say is the percentage of the impact actually played by the rule book?
Yeah, it's a debacle, taxation in Nigeria, and it's getting better even with what you're saying, because in times past nobody knew what was happening with taxation. So you found the situation of the tax collector in the Bible, taking place within the tax environment in the nation. And then you found also that a lot of persons weren't paying taxes, especially those who should be paying taxes, because there are 4 benefits of taxation. All right, there is that of revenue, from which government has the revenue, the funds to invest in infrastructure and other projects and programs of government, and the equity gap. They use the taxes from the rich to now narrow the inequity gap and bring for instance, we say in Nigeria we no longer have a middle class. So one of the purposes of taxation, which is redistribution, is tax those who have, and to ensure that we can build up that middle class and close the inequality gap. And then there is the other purpose, the other R, the 4 R's of that. Recently the government just upped tobacco tax That's reprising. You hear, for instance, the tax on emissions or the gas flaring. That's reprising, taxing, carbon emissions and all of that. And then there is this in governance and in development. So in simplified terms, enables participation in government, and that gives you the impetus to actually hold government to account, because you're a taxpayer, you're part of the process, you hold government accountable. You're able, that's why in the US in those days, it used to be what they call the poll tax. If you didn't pay, you couldn't vote and all of that. So taxation started from when society started. Which was mandatory. I like to use that word, mandatory contribution to the collective for the betterment, for the development of society, to provide infrastructure, water, light, contributions that we made. And you rightly said in your intro, like you rightly mentioned in your intro, there are nations that don't have oil, and they are basically living off of the contributions, voluntary and involuntary contributions of citizens of that and nation to the pool, to a common pool from where now the funds are deployed. The per capita is really quite high, comparable, I think it's higher than that of the US. All right. So and they're just living solely on taxation. All right. But I think with the advent of oil, when probably when you sit with your parents, grandparents, they would have told you how taxes used to be collected. The tax collector will come, people will run and hide. Right. Somebody in my village told me, so he ran and hid behind the plantain tree, and when the tax collector came and said, people, so this my uncle was hiding behind the plantain tree. I said, look at him there. He told me that he has never forgotten. He's going to have me to pay the money that he paid. So taxes were collected. It was mandatory for people to make contributions for the collective good. What has happened in Nigeria, I told you it has improved with the way that FIRS has been going about its businesses, trying to be transparent, making taxation easy so that you can, even now that they announce, usually they didn't used to announce what they got. Now that they announce what they get, it will seem like what is announced is lesser than what they have collected, and but we're taking these things in phases and we'll get there. So taxes are good. It is our collective contribution used for our collective benefit. Today, why people are complaining about taxes is that they haven't seen commensurate use of the taxes that they're paying. All right, and so that's where the problem is. And then of course, ways and means and manner with which taxes are collected, where there are multiple taxation, because of oil, we are not focusing so much on tax. And that's why the IMF recently said, each time we go to the IMF or to the body of lenders, they will tell you go and increase taxation so that you can use that to offset your debt, and so you can use the money to do things and invest within your economy to boost your economy, engender employment and prosperity.
So two things out of some of the things out in taxing the rich to be able to enable the people in the lower, and how we can tax them more than we are taxing the person who is earning a 30,000 minimum wage.
I mean, when you look at probably earns higher than you do, so he will pay higher tax than you do. But people that are like Dangote, they should be paying more taxes, all right? So that what is gotten from their agency, partnering with organizations, they are part of the tax justice and governance platform in the country. For Nigerians, have over 90% of the wealth of Nigerians. So we put Nigerians together, just four people. All right. And so these are people that should be taxed in such a way gap. And so you'll be looking to tax such peoples. But this is Nigeria, where perhaps such people aren't taxed as much as they should. I mean, there are situations where there is tax exemption for some of the companies of these persons. You get them having some kind of rebates, and stuff like that, you find that some of those companies get what they call tax expenditure, tax incentives. For instance, Dangote Cement would say, "Oh, we want you to tar this road. When you tar that road, we'll give you tax exemption." So that's when I say Nigeria happens. Those are the kinds of situations where we're looking at. So when your tax expenditure is very high, the resources tax expenditure is the incentives given to businesses and persons, to run their businesses, don't to do other things that is just thrown away like that. And we are also advocating that tax expenditure should be done in such a way that it's transparent. There's a sunset clause in it, and all of that sunset clause, knowing when it ends, and all of that. So those people aren't being those everyone earning income should be taxed. Everyone earning income, except you're not earning income. Once you're 18 and above and you're earning income, you should pay your taxes. Everyone, it's a civic responsibility. In fact, that is what gives you impetus as a citizen. All right. But if you look at it another way, because Nigeria has not been able, the indirect is VAT. So you pay VAT on everything. Yeah. You pay your NEPA bill, you pay VAT. You go to the supermarket to buy stuff, you pay VAT.
And that's a system of taxation.
Yes, that's a system of taxation. You transfers that you make, you see that you pay VAT. Yeah. So that indirect way of collecting taxes is rampant in Nigeria. And that's why the other time you heard the governor saying, hey, let's even determine, what happens. We are paying VAT and stuff like that. And we are not getting as much as we are paying. All right. And so
for us to pay taxes, absolutely, we've been able to establish that government at different stratas collect taxations from the citizens. Now the use of tax seems to be a problem. We have seen that tax usage should be like opportunities for people that are unemployed. Now let's even talk about the challenges of using the taxation.
Now, I'm wondering myself what the challenge is, because the idea of taxation is pulling resources from every citizen into a pool, and then using that. That was the original sense when society emerged, as taxes. All right, taxing you according to your capacity. Now, what usually should happen now, tax experts will tell me to support other nations. All right, it's the revenue of government. They are sitting there at the table taking the decisions, but usually it makes sense, for instance, to build roads, to provide electricity, to provide portable drinks. I have 100,000 naira and then I pay tax of 10,000 naira, for instance. It reduces my income. It reduces the money in hand. All right. Now I have to pay school fees. Then I now have to also pay for fuel to run the generating set. All right. And I do that on a daily basis. It reduces the income in hand and leads to poverty and misery. So government really should be, I've just told you what it could be used facilities. And that's why you will hear tax advocates saying, or tax justice advocates saying, let's have a tax for service compact. Usually it should go with taxation, but because it seems the people in government don't realize that, and we're saying, for instance, when you go to Akpanandem market, for instance, you don't find Janice, you can't go to that market and feel like going to take a leak and find a place to do that. And tolls, levies, they're all part of taxation, are being collected at that market. Some of them for frivolous things, collect for sanitation, collect for environment, collect for whatever else. All right. These monies aren't being plugged back in that market. All right, to provide conveniences, provide water, or even pave the walkways within the market. So when it rains, it floods. So if you get to the
multiple taxation,
absolutely,
or over taxation. Now you go
there's over taxation, there's multiple taxation. Yeah.
Now you go to a market, just like you have mentioned, Akpanande market, or it's a market.
Or it's a market.
You come and say that you're paying 500 naira for the small space that you're sitting on to sell vegetable like water leaf. And that day, I think the woman was. So where does all this monies go to? Because it's like the issue of taxation now has become like a compensation. Oh, let's compensate this group of people, you know, for the work they did maybe during politics or something, you know. Is that what taxation is supposed to be?
No, it isn't.
Why must we also be having multiple taxation or over taxation in places like markets, and then we are not even providing those?
Like I just established, taxes are supposed to be used for the benefit of the people providing infrastructures. So that takes home the earlier question you asked, the uses of taxation. Now, looking at the tax that you have to pay as well, all right, and that's what you mean by multiple different levels of taxation. Local government, state government would levy, or you know, and it's like you just mentioned, you know, 500, all right. Now that 500, perhaps what is expected. I spoke with the local government chairman. He said, "Oh, those levies just 100 naira, but those guys go collect 500."
Maybe a market woman is paying like 1,000 naira taxation.
Let me tell you an experience.
For a small tray of momo.
That's a small tray of momo. There is the sachet water, what we know as pure water. So that little boy ice block from somewhere else, maybe 100 naira, and puts that stuff there so it's cold for people to buy. That guy, if he moves from one end, if he is within this part of the market, he has to pay 100 naira to be able to hawk that stuff within that market. If he leaves that area and moves to another area, he pays another 100 naira. What is ox for another 100 naira or thereabouts? And then here you are taxing him already 200 naira in the day to sell just a bag of sachet water. That is the adverse effect of, you know, irresponsible tax collection. All right. And so when it becomes, it becomes quite burdensome. We know that the MSC or the MSME, that is micro, small and medium enterprises, are the largest employers, you know, in the country. Boost that sector and not kill it, you know, with taxation and multiple taxation and the burdensomeness of taxation. And then the way and manner, I mean, why do you throw people's stuff away when you are expecting them to earn income and be able to pay taxes? It's because, like you pointed out when you were speaking, sometimes tax collection is given as compensation to political touts, people who are you know, run the gauntlet, so to speak, for these politicians. So they support them to get into office, especially at the government, get a cut out of it. In fact, I got to know that even the traditional rulers around those communities get a cut out of that taxes. But when you are, if you see some time ago, and then that they don't have it, they need to have it. Now I went back, they said, "Oh, we have it." I said, "Okay, give me a copy." You know, so that I don't know, so that people don't know what exactly the revenue is.
Because I was in a local government and I'm saying your local government has a beehive of state activities and businesses. All of the taxes generated here, why are you complaining of basic things if you're generating? And then, like, we don't even have access to any money generated here. It's sent back to the central parts.
Absolute ballyhood. It's not correct. I was at stakeholders meeting last Tuesday before I traveled, and one of the guy who represented the chairman of the Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service was so that we can add it to what the revenue of the state is. They never get it. All right, so that's another phase, you know, and we are hoping that the incoming government will be able to look at that, and because it seems like those taxes collected becomes compensation for the local government chairman, especially when the revenue that should come to the state, to the local government from the FAC, you know, monthly sharing, doesn't get to them. All right, just a fraction of that gets to them. And the idea is that, look, you know, we want to remove the money to pay the staff of the local government. We want to remove money to pay teachers and the primary healthcare centers within the local government. So after they remove all of that, you know, what remains probably Eket take or run, take a Kodabasi. These local governments shouldn't be complaining about, because they have, they're collecting taxes. They have trial line is that what they are collecting is not being declared and they're not being used as it should. That's why we've gone to local government and say, hey, especially for the markets, let's have a tax to service compact. All right, plow back 20% of what you're taking from the market in the market. Yeah, all right, and that's why you see at Intermarket there is a cooperative, there's a building being put up, and that's just it. Yeah.
Well, we want to say a very big thank you to you, Harudo. I think that, garnering from all that we have discussed this morning, it's very obvious that taxes are gulped down by some people.
Absolutely.
Which means that a lot of corruption or corrupt practices is ongoing with taxation.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're not seeing, being commensurate with some of the basic coming forward. But we want to say a very big thank you to you once again. It's always a pleasure having you on set with us. But that's the much we can take this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of Rise and Shine Daily today. We'll definitely see you again tomorrow for another edition. My name is Janice Coburn. Do have a great day.
Thank you to everyone who was a part of Rise and Shine. Sonny, thank you for calling from Benin. My name is Uyai Aniakan. It was a delight doing this today. Let's do this again tomorrow. We leave you now with the rest of our programming. Sports Central is up next.